Hi, welcome to Living on Purpose. I'm Dr. Allison Brumley, and I'm here with my friend and my expert health coach, Karen Cox.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you today. I feel like we really want our listeners to sit down with us today, like they're having a cup of tea and just want to learn more about how they can live on purpose and have more joy in their lives, and which is all of our goal, right? Like we want to take a deep breath and just like, why are we here? We're meant to have joy amongst all the chaos and everything that we have going on in our lives. And so I think we want to just sit down with our listeners and have a conversation today.
Yeah, I like that. It makes it easier for me to think about doing that too. Today we really want to talk about the circadian rhythms and morning routines and what that means. You wake up in the morning, how do you feel? Are you tired? Do you wake up with that first alarm? Do you hit the snooze button? How is your morning routine? So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so why does having a good morning routine matter? Like, why does that matter?
Well, if you think about it, it really just sets the day. It sets the tone for the day. If you wake up feeling stressed and you're scrambling because you woke up late, you hit the snooze button too many times, you're already in this high cortisol, high adrenaline state of fight or flight, which is not going to be your best opening, to your day. So, I think people do have natural rhythms. Some people are more prone to go to bed late and wake up late, and others go to bed early and wake up early. So sometimes that could be with your job, if you have certain hours that you're working, and so you have to work around those. Others, it can just be natural. Are you a night owl or an early bird?
Mm-hmm. And that's your rhythm.
Mm-hmm, that's your rhythm.
And work with your rhythm. But we all wake up and have a morning.
We all wake up and have a morning. So it's when you wake up, when that morning is come. If you need an alarm clock, you can't hit the snooze button. You either have to put it far enough away that you actually have to get out of bed to turn it off, which then you're much less likely to go, snuggle back in your bed. And if you're lucky enough to not need an alarm clock, you just wake up. It's nice to take a few moments, kind of assess how does your body feel, take some deep breaths. If prayer is your thing, say a little prayer. If you like to just get right up, do some stretching. I think all of those things can set the tone for a more maybe productive even, because you haven't burned out through that first morning hour of waking up in stress.
So true. And, a lot of the things that we're trying to help women understand is hormonal balance. And part of having really good hormone balance is sleep. But I think what we really don't understand is what we do first thing in the mornings affects how we sleep at night. So that's that circadian rhythm. And morning routines affect our sleep.
Yeah.
And so I think what we've done is we want to give our listeners some steps. If we have a roadmap, we have some things to do, we can kind of rethink, how am I doing my morning routine? And oftentimes I can use suggestions and then I'm like, oh, I could incorporate that into my life. And so that's what we want to do today, is give our listeners some suggestions to help that circadian rhythm. So let's talk about morning light.
Oh.
Why is morning light important to our circadian rhythm?
Well, it has to do with how you produce melatonin. Okay. That if you have slept through the night, then you wake up and hit the light. That's actually when you're more in that production mode of melatonin, versus at night is when you release it. So having that good circadian rhythm can help with the sleep cycle that way. The circadian rhythm for cortisol is where it's highest in the morning, lowest at bedtime, before bed. And to keep that, there's something called the cortisol awakening response. That if that's not working well, it can be so hard to wake up in the morning. And you can reset that by doing the steps that we're going to talk about. So you wake up and hopefully you have some light. If you don't have light, it can be so good to get a light.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sit in front of the light. We talk about that a lot with that seasonal affective disorder where you've got that depression through the winter. And a lot of that has to do with just not getting enough light. The light absorbs into the eyes, the retina. That will give the brain information that it's morning. It's time to have higher cortisol. And then just sticking to a routine and a rhythm with that can change that cortisol awakening response.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of scientific backing of this, of getting up and getting some morning light within the first 30 minutes of waking. And so we can, couple that with maybe an outside walk, which is that movement, or just sitting in the sun and meditating, having that moment. So it's just, I think it's not something that's always on our mind. Oh, I want to get in the light.
No, I
First
agree.
thing in the morning, we just hit the day running and not just take a minute to just open up the curtains, open up the blinds, let the sunlight in, go outside and take a fresh breath on the porch.
There was a study published in the Journal of Sleep Research that was interesting. They studied college students and they had them into groups of those that did the bright light in the morning and those that didn't. And the ones who got the light in the morning slept better.
Wow. Yeah, and it makes sense because it's really helping us. What we do in the morning really does help how we sleep at night.
Well, and I think it's not an easy correlation to make.
Right.
That if it were you and on mornings that you wake up early, you're out or you sit in front of the light box, that you tie that and would put that together with sleeping better at night. I think it's a harder correlation.
Yeah, because we just think it's going to make us feel better in the day, that it's not really going to help us sleep better at night.
Yeah, I really like that. If you have a dog, best time to take the dog for a walk.
They want to get out.
First thing in the morning. They need to get out. And we do too. And so sometimes for some people, that's really helpful to have the dog that needs to go out because it gives you that impetus and that movement of, oh, I got to take the dog out. So whether you want to go or not, the dog needs to get out. So sometimes things like that can be really helpful. And it doesn't take long. You're like 10, 15 minutes.
Right.
It's great.
I like, one of my favorite lines from the movie Frozen is when Anna says, "The sky's awake, so I'm awake."
Oh, that's cute.
I just love that. And so I think of that often. Oh, the sky's awake, so I'm awake. So let's talk about our next step, hydration. Why is hydration such an important step for our hormonal health in the mornings?
Well, your liver processes every hormone you make. So you've got estrogen, you make it, you metabolize it in the liver, and then you get rid of it through the urine or the bowels or the sweat. You make it, you get rid of it. You make it, you get rid of it. And that detoxification process happens at night. You're on the Chinese organ clock, you've got your liver working the hardest between 1 and 3 a.m. And that liver's processing toxins. You've got the lymphatic system moving. And the best thing you can do is wake up and drink a glass of water. Help flush what your body's been busy doing through the night. Drink a glass of water. It could be 8 ounces, 16 ounces. And flush the system. Flush it, get rid of the hormones. You don't want the hormones recirculating, which they can do, and then you get more estrogen dominant that way.
So a lot of times, because we're crashing or in adrenal fatigue and have a hard time waking up, a lot of times people look for something stimulatory to get them going, like caffeine. And Why would we want to hydrate before the caffeine?
Well, caffeine just by itself is dehydrating.
Okay.
The scientists have said that you need 2 glasses of water to make up for every cup of coffee. Green tea, black tea, not quite as strong in caffeine as a cup of coffee, which I think all of those are fine for most people, but it's very nice to have that glass of water before hydrate first, and then the caffeine it's not quite so hard on the body either. Really want to flush. You really want to flush out the hormones. You could think about adrenaline even. You wake up like that. You wake up stressed. I got to get going. I'm tired. You grab a cup of coffee. You won't last very long. You cannot live that way for very long without your health crashing.
It's true. Like, I feel like that's one of the biggest game changes I have made in my health, in my detox journey, is drinking first thing in the morning. And I find that my body really does crave water, hydration, and I feel almost like my liver and my organs are waking up as I'm hydrating myself first thing in the morning. So I live by that step, hydration first thing in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's extremely important. And I have some patients who talk about, water in the morning will make them feel a little nauseous. Or if they do have morning nausea, water cannot sit real great. You can put a pinch of salt in it. That really helps the adrenal glands and that cortisol response.
Oh, good
To
tip.
have a little pinch of salt. The electrolytes in that help hydrate the cell. I think sometimes we feel like water just goes in and out. And that has more to do with the electrolyte balance of the body to really hydrate the cell. You want that osmotic pressure pulling the water into the cell and really getting that cellular hydration. And it's a little easier on the stomach. If you soften it with a little mineral.
That's a really good tip.
The salt can be a Celtic gray salt. They have blue salt, pink Himalayan salt, or real salt. Any of those are very, very good. I would do any of those over a table salt.
Really good point. Like, that's one of the tips I give my pregnant moms is when they're feeling so nauseous to add an electrolyte, because their bodies are making a third more blood, all of the amniotic fluid, and all of that is mineral. And so it makes sense if we're feeling a little nauseous that maybe we are missing the minerals. Great tip.
Yeah.
So let's now talk about what we eat first thing in the morning, our breakfast, the meal that we break our fast with from our all night not eating. Why what we eat is important for hormonal health and balance. And
I'm going to say the same thing even about water, is that it sets the day up. But again, you want to follow your normal rhythm. Some people, the thought of eating breakfast is just too much. They have absolutely no appetite in the morning. Sometimes that can mean that they're deficient in zinc. Okay. So that's always an interesting little tidbit. And a lot of people are doing intermittent fasting where they're waiting a little longer in the morning. If you've got good cortisol levels, you can do more of that fasting. I see it easier for men to fast than women to fast. I think it's a little more stressful on the body for women, and mostly because of the hormones, that we have these circulating hormones more than men do. But protein. Number one is protein. If you start your morning with protein, it will sustain your blood sugars better throughout the entire day.
Well, and if you think about it, the rest phase of our life is a rebuilding phase. And we use proteins, all those amino acids, to rebuild. And so it does make sense that first thing in the morning, our bodies need to be replenished with protein.
Yeah, that protein is extremely important because your body basically runs on enzymes. Sometimes I'll bring up enzymes and people just think, is it digestive enzymes? Because almost everybody knows about digestive enzymes. But your body has thousands and thousands of enzyme systems, and even in each cell, that you've got an enzyme that'll take one molecule off something and put it on another thing, and you need cofactors. But all those enzymes are made out of proteins. And if you're not eating enough protein, that the liver ends up repackaging those amino acids after we've digested them to make your enzyme systems and binding proteins, and extremely important.
So what are your go-to proteins that you like to have first thing in the morning?
Well, I'll bring up, for really busy people, they're going to work, they don't have a lot of time for breakfast. My favorite really is just a protein shake. They're easy. When you're home, I don't want you doing a protein shake. Make a nice breakfast. But when you're in a hurry, a protein shake, you stick it in the blender with maybe a little bit of fruit, some berries, maybe fourth or half a banana, and then sipping that, not gulping it. Sipping it, take a few minutes to drink it. So whether that's while you're getting ready, I'll say on your way to work, but even though I typically think that you digest better when you're sitting. You're sitting, you're not on the go, you're not in traffic, but sometimes it's unrealistic. So that's an example for a busy morning person to just get some protein in.
And pay attention while we eat, because the body wants to be in the parasympathetic nervous system. That's rest and digest. And if we're going, we're bypassing and not letting the blood supply come to the stomach to digest. So oftentimes if we do eat a shake, we do gulp it. So good tip.
Yeah, it's a little better to just, because you've got digestive enzymes now in your mouth that help break down some of the carbohydrate, get things going, gets into the stomach where you have the stomach acid. That's what breaks apart the protein into smaller little peptides for digestion. And from there, it goes into the small intestine. So what you want to do is you need to start that digestion in the mouth. So if you're just gulp, 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 which is different than when you're chewing food. When you're chewing food and the food lasts in the mouth a little longer, it gets broken down better. So you think of that the same as when you're chewing and drinking.
Yeah, I like
something like that.
So we want to encourage our listeners to look up some good protein-friendly breakfasts that have whole foods, vitamin-rich, chia seed pudding made with you could put the protein in the chia seed pudding. We get a lot of different proteins from our seeds and nuts, and so we can be creative, but let's make sure we don't grab the donut.
Oh, that would be the worst thing you could do. No,
or
sugar,
muffin, really,
sugar in the morning, or too much caffeine through those morning hours are the hardest on the adrenal glands and that stress response.
So let's look for more protein.
Yeah. What are things that you recommend?
I try to help them have variety, because lots of times we get sick of eggs every morning. And so, chia seed recipes that are more high protein recipes. You've got some good protein-packed pancakes that you can have. Eggs is always a great go-to for breakfast, but I also like a good shake with lots of things added into it.
Yeah, for people who tolerate dairy well, I really like Greek yogurt or regular yogurt that's
higher protein.
The Greek is a little higher protein, which makes it nice. But you can even put a little scoop of protein in some yogurt too if you're feeling like I'm not getting quite enough protein. And then put some berries in that, or sprinkle a little cinnamon and honey in it, where it's starting with a plain yogurt is better than a pre-sweetened yogurt. And it can, by itself, it tastes a little bit like a sour cream. Not everybody's going to like that. But as you get used to it, then it actually tastes so good just by itself. But you put a little walnut in it, pomegranate seeds.
I think I just had this thought, so I'm going to go with that. We often know that there's lots of different carbohydrates and lots of different vegetables and fruits, and they all have different vitamins and minerals. But protein is always just labeled protein. But protein is made up of 20 amino acids, and that's exactly what we need. Like, some of those are essential. We can't make them. And so when we're looking for protein, not all protein is created equally.
That brings up why it is such a good idea to have variety in the diet and not eat the same thing all the time. Complete protein, most of your animal proteins are complete proteins. They have all those essential amino acids in it. The combination of beans and rice together gives you that full amino acid picture, but each of them separate are missing a few. And you can still do plant proteins, a vegan protein that's got your pea, hemp. They can put chia seeds in that. There's a number of different types of more of a plant-based protein that they have all the amino acids in them as well.
And that's really what I wanted to help our listeners understand, is that even if you're not really can't do dairy or animal proteins, that there is a way to combine our plant-based proteins to get that complete protein, but we have to pay attention because our body does need all of those amino acids to rebuild and repair.
Yeah, a lot of people have gotten used to doing hot cereals in the morning, some oatmeal, something like that. And oatmeal is pretty carbohydrate rich. You don't get a lot of protein in that. So if you're a hot cereal person, you really like your oatmeal, it can be really helpful to add some protein to that. Whether it's in the form of nuts, sprinkle a walnut on it, or pumpkin seed, those will have a little more protein and fat to help slow down the digestion of the carbohydrate so that it doesn't spike the blood sugar as much. And then you can sprinkle a little protein powder in that too to get just a little higher protein. The new 30-30-30, have you read much about that?
I've heard you talk about it some, but I need to study up more on the 30-30-30.
It's a newer idea, and maybe a little trendy, we'll see. But the theory of it is really good to me, where you wake up in the morning and within 30 minutes, you're eating 30 grams of protein and exercising for 30 minutes. And, that takes some time. You got to have a morning for that. So even if you did it on your days off or after the kids are in school, if you have to wait a little bit longer than that 30 minutes. But that 30 grams of protein in the morning can be so helpful.
Yes. And so then let's go into another step of movement. Why is movement so important in the mornings?
Well, that's actually one of the main things that can really help that cortisol awakening response. When you move, you actually are releasing more cortisol. And when you do that in the morning, you're helping that cortisol be higher in the morning versus lower at night. So you're setting the stage for even the movement can help with sleep. So it doesn't matter what you do either, as far as, what does your body like? What does your body like to do? Is it a nice yoga sun salutation in the morning? Is it take the dog for a walk? Is it you're going to go to a Zumba class?
First
Orange
thing in the
theory,
morning.
There's so many things. And the younger you are, the better you tolerate the higher impact But it can burn you out too. So you have to be somewhat careful of how do you feel while you're exercising, how do you feel after you're exercising, to not do too much. But that movement, our bodies they're made to move.
It's like our very nature. It's not a coincidence that our biggest muscles are in the lower part of our body because they're to support movement. Mm-hmm. And, this is the cycle that we're striving to break with this conversation, is laying in bed all night, getting up, having the caffeine first thing in the morning, dragging yourself to the car to sit, driving to work to sit. That we really, if we could just get a little morning light, movement with that supports our natural rhythm, what we're meant to do. Mm-hmm. If, we're not a plant, we're not a tree, we weren't meant to just stay in one spot. We were meant to move, and the more we move, the more we'll keep this body doing what it's supposed to do, those natural rhythms. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what we do, we just need to move. Yeah. I've watched a couple videos on just importance of, you can just stand at a desk and do squats every so often, just movement. You can just, if you are stuck in an office all day, then on your lunch hour, just walk the perimeter of the office. Like, think creatively what we can do for movement. And, we're talking about some steps, maybe some new habits to incorporate, but a lot of these can be in one, like movement and sunlight and breathing, and even you can meditate as you walk. Like, all of those things can be in one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think the key is to do something you like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Get some little happy neurotransmitters going, and you will keep your health that way by moving your body. The sedentary lives that many of us have, even mine, sitting in an office or sitting charting or sitting going through labs, or lots of sitting. Mm-hmm. And it's so important to make this conscious effort to get up and move. If you've got your smartwatch on and it says it's time to stand up, listen to it. Get up, do something different, and then go back down to finish your work or whatever you're working on.
Yeah, I've noticed one of your conscious efforts in doing that comes with your job of a lot of sitting and listening, is that you've put your office at the very back end so that you walk to the front to greet your patients. Mm-hmm. So you're very conscious about movement.
I am. Yeah, I really like that I walk to the front, greet the patient, bring them back, because it gets me out of the chair. Mm-hmm. So,
and then in your time at home, you love to be in the mountains.
I do.
With your dogs.
I do. I hike.
Now let's move into, how do we manage the stress first thing in the morning? And I think our day and age in which we live puts us in stress first thing in the morning, especially when the first thing we do is pick up our phone. I know that's for me. It's like, okay, what's going on? Oh, I've got to remember I've got this, this, and this. Oh, somebody said this, and we're on to this. And it's like, for me, I have to don't touch my phone first thing in the morning. I'm
the same way, that my phone, I don't sleep by my phone either. Mm-hmm. But I think the best thing is if you can take some deep breaths.
I really like
you
that.
Wake up, take some deep breaths, do a little stretching. I hear some people say, oh, I get out of bed and I feel so stiff. That the stretching, whether it's, neck, back, arms and shoulders, legs, you can do all of that. Consistency is the key. It can be simple. It can be more complicated, whatever feels good and that, people are going to like to do, but consistency. So it could be little. It could be something, a single sun salutation, but if you did that every morning, you'd feel so much better.
Right. It's like not hit the ground running.
Not hit the ground running.
But hit the ground with a stretch, with some deep breathing, and gently ease yourself into the day.
Yeah. Well, and I think the things we're talking about today help you do that. If you're conscious of, I need some light, so I'm going to open the curtains, or I'm going to go outside and just walk around the block, or even sit in front of a light, or stretch in front of a light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even just talking about that settles me.
Doesn't it? I know, because I talk about, just breathe, and it makes me want to just take a deep breath. But that deep breath keeps you more in that parasympathetic nervous system.
That's the goal.
That's the goal, is to not be in so much of that fight or flight.
So I hope that we've given our listeners some takeaways today to start with one new habit of morning light or more protein in your breakfast, a deep breath, and pick one of those.
A walk around the block.
A walk around the block. So we've enjoyed this time with you today and hope that you will continue to tune in. And the best way for you to do that is to like and subscribe, because if you subscribe, you'll always be alerted to our newest episode. And we'd love to hear your feedback. We want to know what you want to know more about. So as I have this conversation with Dr. Allison Brumley, and she can share your wisdom as if you were sitting down with a doctor of naturopathic medicine. So keep living on purpose and share your light today.